Good morning, it's Ecology Matters. I'm Pat, and this morning I'm sitting in my van, my camper van, in a lay-by by the side of a road, waiting for an arborist to turn up and a juvenile noctule bat. So the plan this morning is, well, let me tell you the backstory. Let's start with that. Last week, at the end of last week, a lady walking along a footpath near here, this is in Clitheroe in Lancashire, found a thrush looking rather strange, a song thrush. And when she went to have a closer look, the thrush was actually looking at a juvenile noctule bat. And the bat had fallen out of a tree. The tree's an oak tree. The roost is very high up in the oak tree in a hole in the side. There's lots of staining outside. So before we put the bat, or tried to put the bat back in the roost with the climber, we needed to make sure that we did actually still have bats resident there. There's no point putting a juvenile back in the roost if the other bats have decamped already and moved on. So last night we came along, a few of us, with a bat detector, with an infrared camera, and we actually did a little bit of checking on this roost, a little bit of a survey, and this is what we found. So during last night's survey, we actually found 14 noctules flying out of the roost altogether. It's a good job we had the camera with us, because there's no way, because the roost was so high up and because of the tree canopy, there's no way we'd have been able to spot those bats, and they all flew out making a heck of a din, as you heard on the film. So we think it's going to be okay to put the juvenile back in there. Obviously Dan will have to have a look himself when he gets up there, when he's climbed up the tree, to make sure he thinks it's okay to put it back in. He'd probably hear some roost noises. Even though it's the morning, we still hear the bats making noises at this time. So before the climber, before Dan arrives, and before we try and put this noctule back in the roost, let me just show you a few pictures and a little bit of film of the area that the noctule tree roost lies within. It's a sort of a mixture of cattle pasture. There's a small riparian strip, sort of a tree strip alongside a stream, and there's some scattered trees. It really is quite an interesting landscape that the bats are living within and probably foraging over because of the opportunities it affords to them. So I'm sat here at the moment. It's pouring down. Unfortunately, just looking outside, it's not looking brilliant. I only live half an hour away from here, and the weather on the way has been atrocious. We've still got floods on the roads. It's been raining. It's been sunny as well. But I'm joined by one other companion in the van this morning. Let me show you what I mean. So here's something else in the van this morning, which I don't often travel with something like this. I certainly never travel with it on the dashboard. It's just there this morning for the purposes of showing you where it is. But if you look just down here at the base of this enclosure, you can perhaps see a kind of a dark coloured little blob. You're looking at the forearm of a juvenile pipistrelle bat, which was fell out of a roost. It was found in somebody's house just a few days ago, and unfortunately we couldn't get this one back into the roost, so it's going into care. We've been looking after it temporarily just for the last few days, feeding it on bat milk. So not only are we trying to return a bat to the roost today, but we've also got one in the van to pass on to one of the other bat carers as well. Okay, we're all here. We're ready to go. Let's have a wander over, find a tree and get set up and make sure everything's okay for returning this bat to the roost. We've found the tree. Here it is on the edge of the field, beside a footpath and a stone wall. And as we look up the trunk, it's a long way up to where the bats are, because of course they're not constrained like we are in terms of height and distance in the same way, because they can fly all the way up, most of the way up. And the bat roost is just about there. Let's take a closer look. So the roost is quite clearly demarcated by this very sticky mixture of droppings and urine that allows it to even be seen from quite far away on the ground where we were standing. After climbing the tree once, first of all, to set his anchor point and make sure that it could be climbed safely for Dan's sake and for the bats, of course, as well, Dan set off with a bat inside a bag firmly attached to his climbing harness. It was pretty breezy actually, as you can see from the tree branches blowing around, but Dan's a very, very competent climber and he managed to get right up to the area outside the hole without any difficulty at all. So after bracing himself against the tree, Dan was able to turn the bag inside out without actually touching the bat, place the bat carefully inside the hole, and apparently it shot straight up into the hole, and Dan turned round, gave us a big grin and a thumbs up. Well, you can't quite see that, unfortunately, from the picture here, because the leaves and the lower canopy were slightly obscuring him. Well, it's all good news and thumbs up from here at Clitheroe. The bat went straight back into the roost with no bother at all, crawled straight back in, straight out of the bag that Dan placed close to the hole. It's absolutely brilliant. We feel, all of us, really, really pleased that we've had so much success, thanks to all the efforts of everybody today. And we'll be back another day to have a look at the landscape that surrounds the noctule tree, to try and make some kind of assessment and explain why it is that it's such a good site for bats. Until then, see you next time.